Here's a question I want you to sit with for a second before this video goes any further. When was the last time you changed something in your home, specifically because you thought a guest would like it? And when was the last time you changed something because you personally needed it to be different? For most people, if they are being completely honest, the first answer comes quickly and the second answer takes a moment. Because somewhere along the way, for a lot of Americans, the home stopped being designed around the people who sleep there every night and started being designed around the people who visit a few times a year. And the result is something that is almost never talked about directly. A home that looks right but doesn't feel right. A space that was decorated to be seen rather than lived in. And a quiet, low-level dissatisfaction that follows you from room to room in a place that is supposed to be your refuge. This video is about that tension. Where it comes from, why it is so common, what it actually costs you psychologically, and what happens to your well-being, your daily experience, and ironically, even to what guests think of your home when you finally start decorating for yourself instead. Let's start with the behavior itself, because it is more widespread than most people realize and it shows up in ways that are not always obvious. The living room sofa that is beautiful but slightly uncomfortable, chosen because it photographs well and looks sophisticated to visitors, rather than the sectional you actually wanted that your whole family could pile onto on a Sunday night. The dining room that is formally arranged and rarely used because the everyday eating happens at the kitchen counter where it's easier. The guest bedroom that is immaculately decorated with the good linens and the carefully chosen art, while the primary bedroom, the room you actually spend a third of your life in, has whatever was left over after the rest of the house was finished. The home office that looks professional and put together for video calls but doesn't actually work well as a place to think and focus because it was arranged for how it looks rather than how it functions. These are not extreme examples. A 2022 survey conducted by Houzz, one of the largest home design platforms in the United States, found that nearly 60% of homeowners reported making at least one significant decorating decision, primarily based on how it would appear to visitors rather than how it would serve the household daily. 60%. More than half of the people spending money and energy on their homes are optimizing for an audience that is present for a fraction of the time the actual residents are there. And when you look at that number, honestly, the question worth asking is not why does it happen? The reasons are very human and very understandable. But what does it cost when it does? Here's what the behavioral psychology research actually says about the relationship between your physical environment and your daily psychological state. Because this is the part that should make you take this seriously if nothing else does. A landmark study from the University of Rochester found that people's sense of autonomy and self-expression in their personal spaces is directly and measurably linked to their overall well-being, mood regulation, and sense of identity. In plain language, when your home reflects who you actually are rather than who you think you should appear to be, you feel genuinely better in it. Not marginally better. Measurably, significantly better in ways that affect your mood, your energy, your stress levels, and your sense of self on a daily basis. Your environment is not just the backdrop to your life. It is an active participant in it. And a home that was designed around someone else's approval is a home that is actively working against your psychological well-being every single day you live in it, even if you can't immediately articulate why. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this is the part that tends to surprise people most. The homes that are most genuinely impressive to guests, not in a formal, stiff, everything is perfect way, but in the way where visitors walk in and immediately feel something, immediately want to stay, immediately say this place has such a good vibe. Those homes are almost never the ones that were decorated for guests. They are the homes that were decorated for the people who live in them. And there is a specific psychological reason why this is true that is worth understanding. Human beings are extraordinarily sensitive to authenticity in environments the same way they are sensitive to authenticity in people. You can feel the difference between a room that is genuinely inhabited and loved and a room that is arranged for display. The inhabited room has a quality of ease to it. Objects that were chosen because they mean something or function well, furniture arranged for actual use, a personality that comes through in the specific combination of things that no design template could produce because it emerged from a real person's real preferences over time. The display room, no matter how carefully arranged, reads as performed. It feels like a hotel lobby or a model home. Impressive in a surface way, but somehow cold. And guests register this difference even when they cannot name it. The home that makes guests feel genuinely welcomed and comfortable is almost always the home that prioritizes the comfort of the people who live there. Hospitality is not about performance, it is about genuine ease. And you cannot create genuine ease in a space that was never designed around genuine living. So why does the guest first decorating pattern happen in the first place? Because the reasons are real and worth taking seriously rather than just dismissing as vanity. A significant part of it is social comparison. The awareness, amplified enormously by social media and platforms like Pinterest and Instagram, that your home is legible to others as a reflection of your taste, your status, your success, your values. Homes have always carried social meaning in American culture, but the rise of aspirational home content has intensified that meaning dramatically. When the average American Pinterest user is exposed to thousands of curated, professionally styled home images every month, the baseline for what a home is supposed to look like gets set against a standard that was designed for visual performance rather than daily habitation. And the gap between that standard and what your actual life looks like in your actual home can create a persistent, low-level shame that drives decorating decisions toward what will look right rather than what will feel right. There is also a deeply ingrained cultural script around hospitality in the United States. The idea that having people over requires the home to be presentable in a specific way, that guests should be impressed, that a well-appointed home reflects well on the people who keep it. This is not inherently wrong. There is real value in welcoming guests into a home you are proud of. The problem is when that script overrides the equally valid and arguably more important script about the home as a place of genuine personal restoration. A place where you can be fully yourself without performance, where the environment actively supports your daily life rather than judging it. Here's the practical question then. How do you actually start decorating for yourself when you have been decorating for guests for years, possibly decades? Because this is not just a mindset shift. It requires making different decisions, sometimes reversing decisions you already made, and that process can feel surprisingly uncomfortable even when you intellectually understand why it matters. The first and most important step is an honest audit of your own home, room by room, with one specific question in mind. Does this serve me or does this perform for visitors? Be genuinely honest. The sofa. Is it there because you love sitting on it or because it looks good? The art on the wall. Did you choose it because it moves you or because it seemed like the kind of art that would look sophisticated? The kitchen table arrangement. Is it set up for how your family actually eats and lives? Or is it staged for how a dinner party would look? The guest bathroom that is stocked better than your own. When did that start feeling normal? This audit will show you very quickly which rooms are working for you and which rooms are working for an imaginary audience that is not actually there most of the time. The second step is giving yourself explicit permission to prioritize function over appearance in the rooms where you spend the most time. This sounds obvious, and yet for a huge number of people, it requires an almost deliberate act of self-authorization, because the instinct to make everything look a certain way is strong and culturally reinforced. The bedroom especially. Research published in the journal Sleep consistently links bedroom environment, including clutter, visual complexity, and the sense of personal comfort and safety in the space, to sleep quality and overall health outcomes. Your bedroom is the room where you begin and end every single day of your life. The quality of that room matters more to your well-being than any other room in the house. And it is frequently the room that gets the least intentional design attention because it is the room guests see least often. That priority needs to be reversed. The rooms you inhabit most deserve the most design investment, regardless of whether guests ever see them. The third step is learning to distinguish between personal taste and internalized approval seeking, which is genuinely harder than it sounds. Some of what you think you like in home design is actually what you have learned to signal you like because it reads well to others. And some of what you actually love but have never implemented in your home has been quietly suppressed because it felt too personal, too specific, too much like your own thing rather than a legible aesthetic that guests would recognize and approve. The homes with the most genuine character, the ones that stop you on Pinterest, not because they are perfectly styled, but because they feel like a real person lives there, are the homes where someone made those specific, personal, slightly uncategorizable choices. The vintage piece that doesn't match anything else but that they love. The color on the wall that no designer would have recommended, but that makes the owner happy every time they walk in. The collection of objects that means something specific to the people who live there and means nothing to anyone else. That specificity is not a decorating flaw. It is the whole point, and it is exactly what makes a home memorable to the people who visit it. Now, here's something worth thinking about that ties all of this together in a way that should genuinely reframe the guest first instinct once and for all. When someone walks into your home and feels immediately comfortable, immediately at ease, immediately like they want to stay, what are they actually responding to? They are not responding to the sofa fabric or the gallery wall arrangement or whether the throw pillows are from a designer brand. They are responding to the energy of the space. They are responding to the feeling of a place where people are genuinely at home. That feeling cannot be manufactured by decorating for a guest's imagined approval. It can only be created by decorating for the actual inhabitant's genuine comfort. The irony of guest-first decorating is that it undermines the exact outcome it is trying to achieve. A home decorated to impress guests often impresses no one because what it communicates is performance rather than belonging. A home decorated for genuine daily living impresses everyone who walks into it because what it communicates is something far more compelling: that the people who live here have actually figured out how to be at home. There is one more thing worth saying before we close, because it is the thing that underlies all of this and that I think is the real reason this topic resonates with so many people. Your home is one of the only spaces in your life that you have genuine jurisdiction over. Your workplace has rules and norms and expectations you did not choose. Public spaces have codes and conventions that override personal preference. Social situations require constant navigation of other people's comfort and approval. Your home is the one place where none of that is supposed to apply. It is the space that is supposed to belong to you, to reflect you, to serve you, to restore you at the end of days that required you to perform in every other environment you moved through. When that space gets organized around other people's approval instead, you lose the one refuge that was always supposed to be genuinely yours. The next time you are making a decision about your home, something you are buying, something you are rearranging, something you are finally going to do to that room that has been bothering you, ask yourself one honest question before you decide. Am I doing this for the people who live here every day, or am I doing it for the people who visit a few times a year? The answer to that question, consistently applied, will change your home. And changing your home far more than most people expect until it happens will quietly and steadily change how you feel inside it every single day. That is not a small thing. That is the whole point of having a home in the first place. Dear viewer, if you found value in this video, like it and share it with friends and family. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell icon so that you will be notified every time we upload a new video. Thank you for watching until the end. We will see you in our next video. Until then, stay safe and stay blessed.